today, the humans of the earth live like the lions do in jungles. You step out of a den, few steps apart from the lions, you turn around, you say goodbye, and you set for the day's game. You plan for the day's kill. Even as your foot hangs in the air, before it lands, before you could walk, you find you're already at the edge of the jungle. You realize the jungle doesn't exist. You're homeless. You're a lion, you're a human. You're at the top of the ladder. You rule the jungles. Have absolute freedom. What to eat, where to go, what to hunt, all unhindered. But as you hit the ground, you realize you have nowhere to go. The jungle doesn't exist. No easy prey, no easy food, no easy life. Technically and factually endangered. The lion hunts for food and territory. The man hunts for money and power. Only 1/3 of the lions get lunch every day. Only 30% of the humans have access to money. 70% of the lions live poor, without breakfast, without lunch, without dinner every day. So do the 70% of the humans. Only the top 1% of the lions live the way a lion should live, like the kings of the jungle. Only the top 1% of the humans have money and power to drive the world. 1 in every 100 human at refuge. And so for the lion. The kings of the grasslands and the concrete lands. Equally endangered, equally at war with life. And if you don't get lost in the long list of problems, let me graze you over the severity and fasten your mental screws. You're going to get an anthology of all the threatening news and all the distance and speed of death stalking over you. To survive on Earth, only 5 things are needed: air, water, sand, honesty, and sanity. First 3 for shelter, and the last 2 for intra-species and inter-community coordination. Honesty drives the trust, sanity drives the drive, the motivation to serve the span of life. Today, the first 4 lost beyond repairs, stalks of the 5th lie half a decade. The spheroid Earth deflates to become a rugby ball with each rotation. And at the same time, near the layers of humans, the global deaths hang at 2.5 times the global GDP. Every 100th human a refugee. That's not there for no reason. And way more damaging than a nuclear leak. And may I break you some old news. From the far west in Canada to the far east in New Zealand, including the mighty United States, there lie today 68 different sovereign nations trapped out of cash. And them are now forced into a very glamorous form of human trafficking, more commonly known as citizenship or residency against investment. Sovereign citizenships on sale. Or in better words, humans leaping forward into the age of capital drain, after the age of brain drain. When brain drain operated alone, it gave you the recession of 2008. And that wicked product of disparity is now coupled by capital drain, waiting for better and a way bigger recession. That should be 2021. And thank me, I'm giving you 100 more days to prepare than Raghuram Rajan did in 2008. In 2005, in fact. Half a decade of stocks of sanity, as we said. And these are just the superficial symptoms that we are talking about, just waiting to explode until the machines catch up with humans. In fact, Stephen Hawking summed it way better. For all of us, the super rich will have superhuman pets. That's exactly what I meant. The day the machines achieve all manual capacities what human can, it will be only about the top 1% of the humans. And so for the lions. Deserted grasslands, deserted concrete lands. Not even the top 1% will survive. And the day is near. Unhappy humans, unhappy lions, unhappy earth, unsustainable climate, unsustainable economies, unsustainable countries, and unsustainable life. Today, the human population is about 7.6 billion. some 900 million short of a disastrous turning point, which should ideally be called the cannibal point. At this mark of 8.5 billions, life of one human triggers the death of another. Food for one becomes the missile for the other. The net humanity in practice turns into cannibalism effectively. Let me throw an example how it works out. New Delhi, the Indian national capital. The dirty Delhi today has two heights. One is Qutub Minar from the medieval India. The other is a landfill of municipal waste from the modern times. Qutub Minar, watchtower, 73 meters. Ghazipur landfill, the mountain of municipal waste, 70 meters as of October 2018. Just 3 short of the watchtower. And mind you, Delhi is a seismic zone of great force sensitivity. Upper limit for the height of a landfill for Delhi is 20 meters. And here you have an artificial mountain 70 meters high, which is over 3.5 times the maximum prescribed limit. Today, they have 3 to 4 landslides in these mountains of human waste. 15 to 17 deaths annually slotted for the sport. Lifestyle turning into cannibalism. You really don't need a Holocaust grade of genocide to be a cannibal. Landslides in the middle of floodplains. Can you imagine? You need to be hopelessly illiterate to achieve this. And also, if you think Delhi is alone, may you open your eyes. The world has 4,416 cities in population excess of 0.5 millions, of which 693 are at par with Delhi. Antwerp, Hamburg, Tokyo, New York, Christchurch, Jeddah, Jerusalem, Ashburn, Moscow, Cape Town, you name it. The more you find them different, the more they are all the same. The world is a disastrously dangerous place to live in. And these problems that pulverize humans, disasters that don't let humans even cry, or the risks which kill the humans before they could cry, they're not just external environmental factors. They're all derivatives of human transactions. Take some still more frightening news. The Medical University of Vienna reported presence of at least 9 types of microplastics in human gut from 10 samples across Europe, Russia, and Japan. Should you try the same test for the rest of the world? For every country other than Nepal and Bhutan, you are most likely to find the same result. The mental disease of depression is already the new cancer and also the new flu, growing annually at 18%. The weekend for 12th, 13th, 14th October 2018 was the first and the only one weekend in the city of New York in the last 25 years which didn't see a shooting or homicide. No weekend without a murder in a city for 25 years. Can you imagine? Neither is New York an exception, nor it's only the humans that humans are wiping off. In 44 years, between 1970 and 2014, the humans have wiped off 60% of the animal species. The Wildlife Fund WWF reported October 2018. The illiterates of the world might have a hard time understanding this, but what wiping off animal means, you're disrupting the entire food chain, which in simpler words means you're eating what you shouldn't, and so for the animals. It means you're dredging off the sands of ocean floors to hang glossy silica towers, hanging artificial hills to block the air that you need. You're inviting oceans to your doors, and you are inviting the cyclones to say hi romantically in your ears. And overall, participating in a marathon which only ends in death before you are tired. Whichever corner of the earth you are, whoever you are, whichever throne you don, whichever occupation you practice, whichever Lord you worship, whosoever meat you eat, whichever lineage you can. Whether an illiterate Pakistani or a hostile Indian, a myopic American or a dumb European, a helpless African or a clueless Latin, a hardline Arab or a liberal Nordic, an irritated Japanese or a bullied Chinese, aggressive Aussie or a rational Kiwi. If you're alive, you are a participant of this marathon of death. And as humans, you're only sprinting in the marathon. And all we have just 10 years to restore to survival limits as long as you want to survive. That's the whole of the world in technical specifications. This is about and from the Happy Human Evolution Company. What was Apple to the humans in the 1980s are us already until the next 2 years. And what is GE plus Google plus Bayer plus DuPont plus IBM plus Citibank plus Apple plus Walmart, including Amazon, all rolled into one. We ought to be that by the summer of 2024. A lifestyle technology organization with 5 billion daily active users by the summer of 2022. A lifestyle wave of computing to bail the humans out from the dark age of ignorance into a brighter future. And this baby of the future, to empower billions in the near future, needs empowered co-founders today. The Happy Human Evolution Company on the lookout for the world's happiest 100. The moment you think of a happy human, as long as you are not a brainwashed terrorist, and as long as you have all the natural sense of justice, the first imprint for a happy human to print on the mind of from the shadows of 7 billion in more than 90% occasions, would that undesperately end up to Steve Wozniak? Wouldn't it? Well, it should. The only senior citizen on earth who floats around on a Segway dreaming engineering all along. And that marks our first in one. That's the rationale behind it. On behalf of us, on behalf of the Bay of Bengal, which seeded the wings of fire, on behalf of the peninsula reporting to Himalaya, a big shout out to the big daddy of computing, the big Steve Wozniak from the Silicon Valley, asking out for a second coming, asking out for co-building a new computing mountain, a new computing legacy to change the way the humans live. Last time it was the Apple of the Stone Age, this time for a new Apple of the data age. Last time it was about the consolation of the Silicon Valley in the hills of California, this time the Solution Valley in the arches of Himalaya. Last time it was about bringing computers into personal lives, this time it will be about the cloud, bringing cloud computing into individual life. Last time the problem statement was the need of devices of creativity, this time it is about the need of programs for the processes of manufacturing of creativity. And so, from here on, apart from the whole of the open world, this goes to Steve Wozniak specifically. I hope you would not be unnerved with this unusual route. One reason for this is to make all the humans aware of the crimes they do to the earth, and rest is because not all the males are red. So I hope at least you would not be taking this as a misadventure. All the disasters listed until now, you would not disagree that the root cause is the bad knowledge, of which the root cause again in turn is the lack of free-flowing stream of creativity, also holding hostage of information. Tim Berners-Lee himself with his solid is working on recreating the architecture of internet. We are to bolster that, realigning the world. So let me throw, how are we changing the world now? Backward people like Indians lack in creativity. You had lamented when you came on tour to India last summer, didn't you? And worse, you're more than true on that. True, not only for India, but for a very large part of the world, including the United States. A problem statement for more than 70% of the human population. A problem statement for every human who's bereft of money. Not many know that farmers in the United States today meet the same fate as those in India. Nobody fetches enough price at par value at input cost. And still worse, the same with students. Long before Apple hit the $1 trillion valuation, ages before Amazon cleared the $1 trillion mark, and they retracted back, they were the students of US standing at $1.5 trillion, clubbing for the world's biggest NPAs. And not only the students, not only farmers, but all of them across the world who didn't create the new, who have been stagnant at creativity, they all face the same, an unprecedented risk of life. I have a master's degree, 16 years of experience, work 2 extra jobs and donate blood plasma to pay my bills. I am a teacher in America. I read the Omnipresent Time on September 24 cover page, and worse, for yet again, It's not only the teachers of US, not only the teachers of India or the teachers of Europe, but across the world, disastrously close to being wiped off as a profession entirety. The root cause? The lack of creativity. The problem? Global lack of creativity. Global lacks of means of mobilizing the creativity. All those professions and professionals which have not changed in structures of creativity to match with the changing times, they're all on the verge of being extinct. And no wonder the world's biggest of escalation of creativity came from the world's happiest man. If you were to define creativity as a utility which an individual creates to bring him livelihood, you will find more than 80% of the humans run a rat race to monkey distribute between themselves the last 20% of the wealth. First 80% of the wealth belongs to the top 10% of the humans. And this phenomenon is just a function of time value of creativity. What money was always the sales proceeds of this entity called creativity. Creativity sold, you got productivity. Creativity not sold, you got poverty. You will resonate that this global problem of poverty was not the lack of options, neither the lack of money, and not at all the lack of resources. What poverty was always the lack of demand of creativity, always the lack of applications of creativity. The property sale away of creativity, that was poverty. And where there was a lack of creativity, that was the address of poverty. Edison had defined this for humans centuries ago. Went on to create the world's first accelerator and incubation labs. First man to introduce to humans the modern venture capital funding. J.C. Bose replicated the same at much larger scale in India. Went on to create a humongous 30,000 square kilometers of knowledge valley. The country which didn't have an iota of scientific resource, it got a prominent knowledge mafia by 1920s. And what was the most conspicuous of J.C. Bose? Each of his protege was a professor first, irrespective of their core occupation. Went on to mentor a stubble of scientists and strategists who would structure the world and India thereafter. From Pentium to email to hydrogen collider, there's no ship ever that shaked without an Indian hand onto it. A very prominent knowledge mafia with that. And then came the peak of the lot, the Steve who had Jobs in his name. Changed the way the human transaction happened, began with changing the way knowledge logistics happened, ended up changing the way the human lived ever after. So what all did they do? Essentially, they all created a point of sale for creativity. Edison defined human survival has only one way. Your hands manufacture utilities useful to the other human hand. As an entrepreneur, your job is to lay the thalamus that hosts creativity. And they all follow. They all neutralize poverty by empowering people of creativity. They all created forums which amplified creativity. And despite all those humongous efforts, in spite of them being god of livelihoods, despite all those contributions, the humans still lived like the lions during jungles. In debts, in the thick of degrading rivers, degrading air, degrading planet, on a ticking bomb of continuous conflicts. You'd agree, only humans could have been as dumb as to still remain the same despite the countless lifelines. The root cause? The same derivative creativity. The fact that education is not a continuous and not a lifetime affair. The fact that education is a capacity to deal with changing times has still not got into heads. What is a capacity? They treat it like a commodity. Let me illustrate this with the case of India, the world's biggest human bank, where education is treated like a prepaid card, bought over the counter, expecting returns tuned to a prescribed tariff. The result? In India, life happens in two dimensions, theory and practicals. Theory is about talking, practical is about aping. They talk what doesn't happen and ape what the nearest influencer around does. In most cases, aping all the wrongs. The country with customers less than a cuddle away wags at 100th in ease of doing business for the love of ease of doing crimes. feature in the top of whatever indicates sleaze, beginning from women's safety to lack of transparency, and tag at the bottom of whatever that indicates life, be it innovation or happiness or development index, just any. The Indians, the bad fingerlings of Gandhi, they aspire for mediocrity and hunt for superiority in that inferiority. And yet again, this phenomenon are just not a peculiar case of India alone. These mar more than 70% of the live humans. And we are to fix that. We are to trigger happy human evolution, a condition wherein loss of lives, irrespective of human, animal or plant, the count of loss of lives on human accounts is 0. We seek that in less than 20 years. Objectively, it means we will be taking forward from where Steve Jobs left. When he began, more than 90% of the humans were off board the mainstream economy. With the advent of personal computing and derivatives until iPhone that surged off, now 70% of the humans are off board the bus economy. Our purpose will be to empower them and to have them on board, each of them and all of them. What we need is a universal point of sale for creativity, which can happen by converting knowledge and expertise into currency, a different world than it is today. For instance, let's show you the biggest wrong of the world today. Today, we have credit ratings for the measure of stability and uncertainties. We have the likes of Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch Ratings, which all of them assess monetary flows, which in principle is very wrong. The thing to be rated was always integrity and knowledge. That faulty rating is the reason why the world is strapped out of cash and into debts. Fast forward 10 years from now, when machines take over, for stability from credit records, the anchor will indispensably shift towards expertise. From the contention that where does the money lie, it will boil down to where does the knowledge and expertise lie. Which entity has the human capital to cope with the coming shift? There will be a situation to have a S&P of knowledge and expertise. We need to be the ones who drive the changes. We begin with a problem statement to create a harness that makes education a lifetime affair. And we finish as an eternal tool to the earth that saves the earth from humans. And as we do that, we give the humans the power of engineering. So Steve, the elder Steve, I hope I need not explain the vitality and feasibility and significance and relevance of this. I hope the manner of proposing is not misleading. The only thing that I'm trying to sell you is a proposition to go down the history with a profile higher than Aristotle. Say, if we tabulate every unique human born and recorded, you would be somewhere at an equal parity with J.C. Bose, the Indian pioneer of waves and wireless communication in terms of impact on humans. You give them the device to make knowledge acquisition and information processing fluid. Life of the humans changed forever. They got the means, but not the purpose and direction in life. Here, with this premise, you change the way the humans undertake humanity forever. More than means, you give them order and direction in life. A second apple, a way bigger apple. I see that you have lived a very saintly life until now, disenchanted with money and positions. You have been a huge evangelist of education, even bigger for innovation, but you have avowed businesses. You believe businesses are a sleazy part of the world characterized by gory manipulation and policy. The problem is, money and businesses, which already have a wrong perception over the mortals, need an endorsement from the greatest living to come out what they are. Money was a device invented to settle disputes. They made it a commodity to outsource pains. And thereafter, with the bargaining gradient that it brings inherently with it, brought a perennial divide to give it an ominous perception. Little did the humans know that money is not money making more money. What it is, money empowering the more many. Many humans, as many possible. A networking device to have all on board the bus economy. Every human on the same page as the human evolution. A networking device that induces a Midas touch of prosperity. And this wrong perception got the bad alignments in human transaction and behavior. The same happened with businesses. If we could distillate the world, we would come to a conclusion that the world is a sum total of verbs or actions. And broadly, there are only two kinds of verbs, businesses and crimes. Business say, I will do, while the crime stands for I didn't. Businesses stand for being sport, crimes for being unsport. Businesses were verbs where human ascertain the promise that the given will be met, or businesses they seek authority and accountability, while of crimes, escapism. And both the facets are very wrongly understood, wrongly perceived, of which the most hazardous effects are seen in the less educated regions. Majority of the world's disasters owe to that. In the age of data, when humans are humans no more, when humans are marketplaces, if that perception is not changed by the world's greatest, it will have a dire effect on the future. Besides businesses and money, severely need an endorsement from the greatest engineer alive, the one to lead from the front. Also, to lay the base of the empowerment that we dream, there's no better person than the one who has led the same in the past. There's no other person alive on earth who has the experience what we seek. Here, we have another opportunity to recreate the constructive influence that the humans witnessed with the inception of Apple computers. And the humans, for their survival, need that desperately. And now, as my throat clears, as I feel lighter of weights, as my presentation ends, I'm still wondering how this effort would be perceived upon. I hope you respond, and do respond. Or else, in a country as hostile as India, that would make my life hell. In India, we have this thing called dal galing. Like something is successful, is marked as pulses getting boiled in the heat. And if your pulses don't get boiled, you remain hungry. So it's the land of Gandhi. So please do respond. My career is already ruined for innovating in this ruins of this country. So they'll also tell me that I painted in black. So please do. So that's all from the Happy Human Evolution Company. We are the proteges of J.C. Bose. Goodbye.